I've been hurt by men, but I've been wounded by women. I used to think, I don't like women. I don't like them at all. I'm not really a woman. I think like a man. And I was really comfortable with all that until God confronted me and said, I actually love women. I've called you to minister to women, and I can't have you minister out of a bitterness. And I went on this journey about what did it mean to be a woman? What did it mean to be a daughter of God? The feminist mindset is the most anti-female mindset because it says to women, if you want to be powerful, you need to act like a man. But I don't want to act like a man. I want to act like a woman. I believe that female is something worth fighting for. The fight for female is about restoring your dignity. Take back what it means to act like a powerful woman. Welcome to the Fight for Female podcast. And you may be wondering why. Why would we even have a podcast called Fight for Female? Well, if you're even a little bit paying attention, you're seeing that there is a lot of stuff going on in our world right now that is very, very confusing. And I'm going to just take you back a little bit into my personal fight with female. When I realized that I was getting married and I became a born-again Christian, one of the things I found out really quick was that females did not feel like they had voice or value in the church. It was very confusing to me. I remember that moment when a minister got up and said, where would we be without women? I thought he was going to say, it's amazing. And he said, we would be in the garden. Women are the ones that got us kicked out of the garden. And something inside of me thought, that is never how I sense my Father speaking to me. And I went on this journey about what did it mean to be a woman? What did it mean to be a daughter of God? I didn't always like women. I grew up in a very broken household, and I remember seeing women as vulnerable, seeing women as mean, and I saw a lot of different dynamics between my parents. And I think as a young girl, I felt closer to my dad than to my mom. And at about 7 years of age, my mom had my brother. And I remember there was a moment where she sat me down and she said, listen, you're your dad's and your brother is mine. And you're going to regret for the rest of your life that you didn't love me more than your dad, because I'm not going to be there for you. And I had this moment of abandonment where I felt so wounded and betrayed by my mother. I also think that women will tend to actually open up their hearts with one another. And when you've opened up your heart to somebody and you've been that intimate, they can wound you intimately. I've been hurt by men, but I've been wounded by women. And so I was super excited when I gave birth to 4 boys. I would tell my husband, I don't like women. I'm not really like those other women. I have a man's brain in a woman's body. And John would say things like, I'm actually not comfortable with that. I used to think, I don't like women. I don't like women. I don't like them at all. I'm not really a woman. I think like a man. I am more masculine than I am feminine. And I was really comfortable with all that until God confronted me and said, I like women. I actually love women. I actually created woman as the answer to the very first problem. And then I had to sit down and realize that my hatred towards women was the problem. And God said, all right, we're going to deal with this wound that you got from your mom. We're going to deal with this because you're so scared of having daughters. You've had all sons, but I've called you to minister to women, and I can't have you minister out of a bitterness. So I'm going to speak healing into your life when it comes to your womanhood. And I was like, how are you going to do that? I never had that woman who spoke life and healing and strength into my life. And he said, you're going to write it backwards. And everything you wish another woman would have been to you, you just begin to be. I have found out that the very things I didn't like about women were the things that we were never created to be. From the beginning of time, which actually time began with the fall. From the beginning of time, there has been a very special hatred between the woman and the serpent. And it's fascinating to me because so many people are like, oh, wow, what happened here? Well, it's interesting that God is the one who set enmity. Now, enmity is an interesting word. It's not used often. Enmity is a hostility that the longer it exists, the greater it grows. Enmity is always in an opposite direction, and the woman and the serpent are in a state of enmity. And when God said, I'm going to put enmity between the woman and the serpent and the woman's seed and the enemy's seed, he actually was saying to the woman, guess what? You're going to be a problem to the serpent. There should be no agreement between the woman and the serpent. And then we fast forward to Revelations, and we find in Revelations 12:17, and then the dragon was enraged with the woman and went to make war against her children. This is what we have going on right now. He hates that we carry life. He hates that we birth life. He hates that we are women. He hates women. He hates men too, but he hates women with a very specific hatred. And we're watching that hatred express itself in different ways. We see it in misogyny. We see the hatred of women. We see it in oppression, but we also see it when women deny their femininity and actually hate what it means to be a woman and want to be men. I often think that the feminist mindset is the most anti-female mindset because it says to women, if you want to be powerful, you need to act like a man. But I don't want to act like a man. I want to act like a woman. Right now, we have a big battle on the forefront. We have culture sexualizing what it means to be a woman. We've got men dressing up and presenting as women. We've got women supporting the presentation of men as women. We've got the church out there saying, oh, this is all because the women shouldn't be talking. We need to silence them. And women are being caught in the in-between of silencing and sexualization. And that is a terrible space for us to find ourselves in. I do believe that we are living in a time period where the world needs the voice of woman, that God created woman for an answer to a very, very specific problem. God said it's not good for man to be alone. But for a while now, women have been acting like men, which puts the men back into a position of being alone. God gave us authority over everything but one another. Men do not have authority of dominion over women, and women don't have dominion over the men. But what happened with the fall was the women tried to wrestle with the men tried to oppress the women, and both of the different genders, male and female, found themselves in positions of weaknesses rather than positions of strength. And I am believing that God is saying, I need my daughters to actually rise into the fullness of what it means to be a daughter of the Most High, what it means to be a mother, what it means to be a wife, what it means to be a professional woman, what it means to be a woman in all of our frailty and all of our challenge and all of our beauty and all of our wonder. You know, so often, John and I'll look at different couples and it'll seem like one is strong and the other one has to be weak. Or, you know, if the husband's really strong, the woman has to be really passive. Or if the woman's really strong, the man has to be passive. But the truth is, God does not look at it that way. God loves strong men and strong women. God has always created male and female to be a power union. Now, when one person is powerful and the other person is less than, that's not a power union. That is actually a power struggle. That is one person saying, I'm needy. I don't have anything to bring to this equation, so I just need you to fulfill my life. No, God wants us to both have the God-given authority and strength that he wove into us from a Genesis mandate. The reason I'm doing this podcast, The Fight for Female, is I want other women to find their voice. I believe that just as cowardice is contagious, courage is contagious. And I believe that when you hear other women having hard conversations, you're going to realize you're not alone. Initially, I was shocked that so many people became angry when I would even say something like, hey, men are not women. Women aren't men. We need women to be women and men to be men. People would jump on me. I remember one quote that I posted that said, our culture has wrongly equated loving everyone with approving of everything. It was actually a quote from a book I wrote years back. And people were like, you're a transphobe, you're a bigot. We can't believe, who are you talking about? I was like, what in the world? But we should not be surprised if we get attacked. Matter of fact, I feel that we need to actually recover our courage. The more people that find their voice, speak the truth, and are courageous, the more the truth is going to displace the lies. But I get it. I've had so many people DM me. So many people send me text messages, say, I'm so glad you're speaking up, that you're talking about that biological sex is actually a God-given gift, and it is woven in the womb of wonder. It's woven within us in our mother's womb. We're so glad you're saying something, but we don't feel that we should say something. Well, when we have an attack on gender, or I'm just going to almost say it, biological sex, you actually are attacking the image of God, because God makes us in his image, male and female. And when we begin to blend the genders, we begin to unmake what God made in wonder. So it's scary, but we cannot afford to be cowards. We have to use our voice. We've got to speak up for those who don't have a voice. And I'm hoping that in this podcast, we'll have conversations that you can actually recover some courage, get some strategy, because we're not fighting with people. We're fighting with an enemy who wants to unmake those who were created in God's image. I want to fight to see women realize what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a female, to take back the honor. See, woman is our creation name. It is not something we can just be careless with. It is something that was God-given. And God gave woman as an answer. So many times we see culture actually elevate women at the expense of men, or elevate men at the expense of women. But God is the one who said men and women together is what is so very, very good. And so I believe that female is something worth fighting for. I believe that we have to recover what we have lost, that we have to recover what we've laid aside. We've got to recover what the enemy has stolen from us, because from the beginning of time till the end of the time, there's been a battle between a serpent that grows into a dragon, between one woman and an army of women and all of the children of God. And this is something for the women to fight. And we better find our voice and fight this battle now, because our children are at risk and our communities are at risk. And it is time that we begin to flourish in what we know to be true, rather than just shrink, afraid that people are going to say we're being judgmental. I believe this is a war that God is going to equip us to win. I believe that the enemy is fighting everything that is female, because he is terrified that you are going to wake up and discover the woman that God wove you in your mother's womb to be. God has his hand on your life for this moment, for this fight, and we are committed to growing you in godliness and strength. We are not going to back down from truth, but we're going to speak the truth that transforms your life.